Glad you are here. I believe Ms. Rasmussen will not be with us tonight. We have no student school board member, but we do have a Pledge of Allegiance, and I think we need, do I have any students in the audience? No students? Wait, I see finger pointing. Yeah, okay. We do? Would one of you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I would be absolutely honored. Yes, yes. We would love for you to. Love for you to. He's leaning. Oh. Oh, yes, as a group. I love it.
Great. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are you all Flagler students? Thank you, Flagler. Shout out.
Yes.
Very impromptu. All right, changes and additions to tonight's agenda. Miss Lewis Butler, you got them?
I have it here. No, I don't.
This is it. This is it right here.
The superintendent recommends approval of change in addition to the June 19, 2018 school board meeting agenda as presented. Number 1, item 11.07, 2018-2019, Title 2, Part A, supporting effective instruction, replace documentation. 2, item 11.08, Individual with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, Part B and Part B preschool, replace documentation. 3, add item 5.05, supposed to be heard, LCS Audit Committee Report. Number 4, item 7.02, Reassignment Committee, add documentation for the June 2018 reassignments. 5, item 12.10, 2018 through 2019, Memorandum of Understanding between the Leon County School Board and the Foundation for Leon County Schools. Replace documentation. The FLCS requested a date change on MOU. 6, add item 11.08, 2018-2019 K-12 Comprehensive Research-Based Reading Plan Grant. This item needs to be approved so that DOE can release the funds as of July 1, 2018. 7, item 18.13, Stipulated Agreements. Pull case number LCS 2017 through 50 and case number LCS 2017 through 54. Documentation was replaced to reflect this change. 8, item 7.03, approval of personnel action June 19 through 2018. Replace documentation and change the information in public content to reflect this change.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis Butler. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move the approval of that motion.
Second. Moved by Bowen, second by Wood. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Superintendent Spotlight.
None this evening, Madam Chair. No spotlight, no recognition.
Thank you. Reports to be heard. 5.01 District Advisory Council, none to date. 5.02 Student District Advisory Council, none to date. 5.03 Title I Advisory Council, none to date. 5.04 Charter School Update, Bev Owens.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We've provided you with copies of the 1617 Title I monitoring reports that are done by the district, and also the 1617 audits done by an audit firm hired by charter schools. And those are required by statute. And we've done this, even though you didn't ask us for them. We've done it in the past when you've requested them, but because you've had so many questions and discussions about charter schools, we felt like it was important for you to have all the information that you could possibly have about our charter schools. You also are going to have 2 charter schools up for renewal in the fall. So these reports, along with the 17-18 reports that Justin Williamson will bring to you in August, after August 15th, when the new audit comes out, will be important for you to read and study as you make decisions about those renewals. In addition to that, the Auditor General's office actually told us that we needed to bring the audit reports to you annually. They said for approval, we think for information. Okay, so you will get those annually. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the monitoring reports because I think it's really important that you read and study them and then ask questions after you've done that. But just so you know, we look at educational programs. We visit schools. We look at the educational program. We don't evaluate teaching. That's not our purpose. But we look to see if they're doing what they said they would do in the application that you approved. We look at finances. We look at student performance. We look at diversity, because that is something that the statute speaks to. And we just look at the school in general. We look at the performance of the school's board. Just a few quick highlights about each school. SAST, School of Arts and Sciences on Thomasville Road, met all of its academic requirements. They are an A, or were an A for 16-17. There were no financial concerns or findings by the auditor. They are less diverse than the district. They do not reflect the diversity of the district, and they're becoming less diverse annually. So that's one chart that you might want to look at in their monitoring report. But that's the only concern that we have related to that school. SASC met 75% of its performance goals. They only had 4. The one they didn't meet was related to math performance. 61% instead of 62% of their children met that requirement. So they came really close with that one as well. They also are an A, and we have no financial concerns, although we have asked when they bring their renewal document to you that they give you information about any potential increases to the cost of their facility as they build out. They're the school that they're located at the mall. They also are not as diverse. They don't reflect the district. They're less diverse than the district, so there are concerns there, but that's the only concern we would have, and you might want to review those charts too. Tallahassee School of Math and Science met 1/3 of its goals. However, its grade came up from a C to a B. It is a Title I school. The other 2 are not. They're financially are in really good shape. And they look almost like the district in terms of diversity. Very, very close. SASC is up for renewal in August, September, and by the end of the year next year, you'll have to decide whether or not they're going to remain open in following years. And then Governor's Charter is also up for renewal. If you remember, you approved a 2-year charter for them. So at the end of next year, that charter ends unless you renew. Now, in terms of those observations, we could not document that they were implementing their program as intended. They didn't look like the program that you approved. And they didn't submit a lot of the charter documents that they were required to provide to us. They had 45 academic goals. 39 of them were state accountability goals. They met 1 state accountability goal out of 39, and they met 4 out of 6 of their internal goals. They met 11% of their goals. That's one of the reasons that, although we didn't have all this data, that we recommended that a 2-year charter, because we had some concerns, although we did not have the data when you made that decision. We don't have any concerns about their audit, although we are concerned about potential liability related to their facility, and we talked about that at an earlier board meeting. Their lease agreement is projected to increase greatly, and we're not sure that they'll have the funds to take care of that. But that's the only concern we have related to their audit. You can find that information in the audit that you've been given. They are very diverse. In fact, they're more diverse than the district. Okay? And so that's what I have for you. The first three schools, their goals were related to increasing performance by 3% or being at or above the state average. Governor's Charter actually presented an accountability plan to us, and so we did not develop their goals. They did. Right. Any questions?
Thank you, Bev. Just a couple of
Okay.
questions. So you said that SASC is up for renewal this coming
Right.
school year.
They'll end, their contract will end at the end of this upcoming school year. So that your renewal documents will come to you probably in, the committee will look at the renewal documents. They'll be studying them in the summer and in early fall, and then a recommendation would come from that committee to the superintendent, and he would make a recommendation for you either fall, anytime from fall to winter of next year.
Okay, so the renewal for them we're looking at is for 1920 you're talking about.
Right.
Would be for the
Yes,
1920.
their charter will end in 19,
Okay.
June 30th, 19.
Same with Governor's Charter, same
Right.
time frame. Okay. And I think I'm hearing our concerns are with Governor's Charter. And can you go back in time a little bit? Their school grades,
They're a D.
they're a D.
And before that, they were C's.
They were Cs
They've never
already.
been anything higher than a C.
Okay. And I do want to give one little, just so everybody, math and science was apparently very, very close to being an A, and it was even a little technical, that's something about kids enrolled in a certain class or an AP or something, but a really impressive school. I visited and was so glad I did, because I saw what we want our charter schools to be, and it was a really good. I encourage you to go visit if you haven't. Y'all have more questions?
I do. Bev, you mentioned on the governors that I think I heard you say that they didn't present some documentation that we needed, and they didn't really meet their goals. What?
Well,
Exactly.
their charters require them to turn in certain documentation to us every year, and they did not do that. I will say that they lost a principal during the summer before school started that year. They had a new principal up until just before spring break, and then they had another new principal right after that. That might have something to do with what they didn't provide to us. Although it's their board's responsibility to provide this documentation to us. So when we looked at the educational program, the application, and you've seen those, they're very large. You've just recently looked at some, tells us what the education program is supposed to be composed of, what it's supposed to look like. And we did not see much of that when we observed. That the charter tells us what they're supposed to submit to us. They did not submit much of what they were supposed to submit to us. And then in terms of academic performance, they only met 11% of the goals that they established for themselves.
So then the question may or may not be the penalty that would come with having not met those goals that they established. And how do we?
Well, what the statute tells you is that a charter school, a school board could recommend non-renewal if a charter school does not meet its goals.
Okay.
Now they have this year's data as well.
Okay.
And so that's last year's data. What you're really looking at is 17-18, and you won't have your 18-19 data before you make the decision. You would hope that they would bring you as much as they could in terms of progress monitoring information, but you won't have that when you make the decision. So that's unfortunate, but that's the way that the charter world works. We have to make the decision about a charter before we have the final information about student performance.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you. None here.
All right. Thank you so much, Bev. We
Hold
appreciate it.
on
Yes,
one second,
Superintendent.
Bev. So tonight is Bev's last official
What?
school board meeting, although she reassured me this afternoon that she is on speed dial if needed, which will, I'm sure.
Oh my
I,
gosh.
I can't thank you enough. I mean it, Bev, for all that you've given to the school district during your career. I mean, your heart and soul. You're a worker, and you, from day one, you're here. You're the first one here and the last person to leave, and it's been that way ever since I've known you.
Yes.
And you have been a friend, a mentor, and inspired so many of us to want to be a Bev Owens, and with that same work ethic and care and compassion that you've had for all these years. And I just can't say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, and I also would. This has been my life, and I have really enjoyed it. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy retirement as well. But I appreciate everybody I've ever worked with, and I've really, really enjoyed myself. And most people that know me know that that's why I've worked as long as I have.
Madam
They have
Chair.
enjoyed
Yes,
it.
Ms. Bowen.
Bev, you know you cannot go to your seat. This, I think I've been blocking this, and I'm about to say that this has been a best-kept secret. I have said through the years that if Bev ever leaves, then we all are going to be in deep trouble because she is the walking encyclopedia when it comes to the federal grants and the statutes and the do's and don'ts. And I'm going to have to make a bigger fuss than I'm making right now because I really need to say to you how much I appreciate your know-how and your keeping us all on this side of the jail cells. And, you know, we talk about that and laugh, but it is so important what you do. So I just need to add my voice to the chorus of the others. You've done an outstanding job, and certainly we will never replace you. I'm certain that someone else will come in to do the job that they will be given to do. But your attention to the details and making certain that we have what we need when we look at the charter schools, and then being the resource that you've been to others in the state of Florida. I don't know if you all are even aware of that, but there are people from other districts who call IBEV to get information about the particular job that she does. So go in peace, my friend, and call us up for lunch so that we can see what you're doing.
I will do that, and I promise you the people that are going to be doing what I'm doing will do it beautifully. I have no concerns about the
Wonderful.
people that are replacing me.
Miss Liz
Great,
Butler.
great. Thank you,
Yeah, I'd like to add to that,
Bill
Bill.
Magnolia.
I have appreciated you over the years.
Oh, my.
I appreciate you for being so patient with me and always listening to me and always doing the research that I asked you to do in a timely manner and getting it back. You have been great. Thank you so much for all the telephone calls that I've called you about and asking you to do the research for me, and you would get it in a timely manner. And thank you for always returning calls. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really have appreciated you over the years
Wow.
as an educator, as a leader, and as a principal.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Miss Wood. Bev, don't go. I get my
We're
turn.
not done.
You know, she and I go back. She used to come to SAIL as the the ESE person and helped us a long time ago before she was a principal. And the thing I want to say, because your competence is unparalleled,
Yes.
really, but you really care about kids.
Yes.
And you really see individual kids and their needs, and you have a big big heart, and you have a big broad vision. And I thank you so much for that. That's okay.
I was doing all right before that.
Oh my gosh.
But that's who you are, and you have dedicated your life to that.
Yes.
You've made a big difference, and we all really appreciate it.
We do. With
Thank you,
respect
Bev.
and love.
We said there's nothing that hasn't been said that I couldn't add to. Just so appreciated. I think didn't really understood your depth and the reach that you had when I first joined the board, but very quickly came to appreciate it and just know that how valued you really are, and the information you hold in there is not something that anybody can just step into. So we value you, and to be part of something so controversial over the last year or two really probably put a lot of pressure on your shoulders because you were trying to bring them in to be part of us, and there were issues, and you were kind of that mediator, and I can't even imagine the difficulty feeling like you were torn
Beautifully
between
said.
two, but we're supposed to be the same. So you did it with grace, and we are very lucky to have been a part of your life.
Thank you.
Totally.
you.
Thank you.
Miss Carolyn, we might need some tissues. Yeah.
Oh, my.
Okay, 5.05 LCS Audit Committee Report, Jake Corbett.
Good evening, Superintendent Hannah, honorable board members, and concerned public. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the quarterly update on behalf of the Audit Committee. Our last Audit Committee meeting was held April 20th, and we received a status update from the Office of Internal Auditing And we talked about the district's implementation of corrective actions for the recent audits. We also were briefed on the plans for the Office of Internal Auditing for the coming year, and they sound like they're going to be very busy this next year. They have a full staff now. Among the upcoming projects for the Office of Internal Auditing are a more streamlined internal accounts auditing process for all the schools. They plan to review the cellular telephone use. They plan to review the school support organizations. They're going to assist in a special management review for the Pineview Elementary School. They will provide consulting activities for school-initiated projects, training for the new principals and the new internal auditing staff themselves. We also talked about the corrective actions from the 3 Auditor General reports that were issued for last fiscal year. One of the concerns of the Audit Committee was the current status of the corrective action regarding the Best and Brightest Teacher Scholarship Program, and also the safeguarding of student Social Security numbers. We requested an update on this status, and were assured that we would be provided a presentation with these at our next regularly scheduled meeting. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview of the activities of the Leon County Audit Committee, and our next meeting is scheduled for July 19th.
Thank you so much, Mr. Corbett, and thank you for your involvement with Leon County Schools. To have concerned public is what we need, and people just like you to help us and to be an outside set of eyes, and we really appreciate what you do for us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, do I have a motion?
Move this consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Bowen, second by Wood, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, if I may, I'd like to recognize some folks from our HR department that are here tonight. Our director, Mary Nicholson, Lisa Crosby Harley, Angela Graham, the one that always keeps me in line, and Angie Albritton. And thank you so much for all of your hard work to get this on the agenda for tonight. And I know I asked when their busy season is. Well, their busy season is all season. And I can't thank you all enough and the other people in your department for your tireless efforts to keep us on track and to keep track of our employees and to keep me straight. But thank you for all of your tireless work and efforts. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us down to 19.01, items for consideration. I believe we have a construction project, Mr. Albritton, so we don't duplicate efforts.
Good evening, Chair, Board, Superintendent.
Good evening.
Excuse me. Item 1901 is Superintendent's recommendation for approval for Burnett, Franzak, Barlow, and Schuler Architects. It's Amendment 2 for professional services for the Fairview Building Project, Building 2, Gymnasium, new construction, remodel, renovation, and site improvements. Increases their fees by $192,000.
I move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Bowen, second by Wood, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Item 1902 is Superintendent's recommendations for RAM Construction and Development, LLC, guaranteed maximum price for $862.18. This is for the temporary parking and utilities relocation project at Fairview Middle School, so it'll be ready for school starts. And the building can start in approximately the beginning of October.
I move the superintendent recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Lewis Butler, second by Wood, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. 19.03, Leon County Value Adjustment Board appointment.
Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Thank
I see
you.
You're about to be appointed to the Value Adjustment Board.
I'm honored to serve.
Wonderful.
It's actually kind of interesting. A little nerdy side of me came out there and was like,
Yeah,
this is so cool.
It's
Yeah.
very interesting.
It is. It's part of your community you don't really realize is out there, but you
I
can
know.
go and argue the
Yeah,
value of the tax
that's
value
right.
of your
That's
homestead.
great.
It's
It's
interesting.
great.
Okay, do I have a motion do I need approval on this? Yes.
I move the approval of 19.03.
Second.
That chair shall become the representative for the Lynn County Value Adjustment Board.
Along with, there is another representative also. If
Oh.
you're gonna list that.
Oh,
Oh.
who is that?
The action requested?
Yes.
Yeah, it lists Hillary Garaldi as the
Oh, that's
citizen
right.
representative to also sign.
Well,
Just
yes,
to
I
make sure
move
the
that
motion is clear.
also.
All right.
Second.
Both parts.
Okay, moved by Bowen, second by Lewis Butler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. 2018-19 School Resource Program Agreement, Mr. Hunkier.
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, school board members. Before you is the proposed 2018-19 School Resource Deputy Agreement with the Leon County Sheriff's Office. It's an agreement that's been in existence for over 30 years. This will be obviously a little different with the passing of Senate Bill 7026. We have been working closely with the Sheriff's Office in negotiations to come up with a plan, so we'll be ready for the beginning of the school year. The contract last year was $1,447,000. That number changes each year a little bit because it's based on actual salaries of the deputies that are working. That is a 50-50 split with the Sheriff's Office. There are some new positions that are being added to this year's contract. We are adding 3 additional elementary school resource deputy positions, and that's an additional $352,132. The reason that number is fairly high for 3 positions is because there's a lot of equipment and capital cost in the first year, and it's anticipated that that number will go down a little bit in next year's. Additionally, there's a $75,000 backfill and emergency contingency in the contract. Most of the with the new legislation, the anticipated that we should have an officer on campus at all times, and this $75,000 in backfill gives the Sheriff's Office some ability to have overtime if needed to make sure that those positions are filled. That brings the proposed contract to a total of $1,932,374. It's an increase over last year's contract of $484,000. We'll go from 24.5 positions to 27.5 positions. The contract this year will cover all elementary schools that are in the county. And we have 5. 5 elementary schools that are in the county are Canopy Oaks, Killarn, W.T. Moore, Chairs, and Oak Ridge. Obviously, the $500,000 question is the rest of the schools. We are working to implement an off-duty detail, at least for year 1, to cover the 18 additional schools. And as I spoke to you a little bit yesterday in the agenda review, that's about an additional $1.1 million. I provided you a brief summary, which tells you that we are still about $600,000 in the hole to be able to cover that. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I will tell you that we think that our school resource deputy program is excellent. Captain Smith, Chief Smith, demoted her. Chief Smith from the Sheriff's Office is here, and we've had a long-standing partnership. And I think that the feedback from the principals related to this program is always very high.
I have one question, John.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you, the hours that these officers will be at the school sites, could you mention that, please?
Yes, ma'am. The contract spells out that the officers will be there a half hour before school starts and a half hour after school starts. And then the schools also hire them in an off-duty capacity for dances and extracurricular activities.
Mm-hmm.
However, the contract does cover the big varsity sports such as football and basketball.
Okay. And I know we've talked about this a lot, but could you just briefly run down a couple of the things that we're doing overall in the hardening of our schools to make them more safe, since we have just a little time tonight, please?
Yes, ma'am. Probably just an hour ago, the superintendent received a letter from the Commissioner of Education that asked for some details related to our planning related to the act. We have done school visits and school safety reviews with every single school prior to the end of the school year. We are conducting security risk assessments at every school. And once we have those complete and we communicate to the Department of Education our plan for staffing all of our schools, we will then be opened up to what they call target hardening grant funds. There's approximately $97 million that will be available.
Right.
So we will be applying for upgrades for our facility for additional security items such as fencing and more cameras and access control, locking mechanisms, on and on. So we have that plan ready to roll out. We feel our schools are in a good standing related to security. We've spent a lot of effort, especially in our elementary schools, to complete single point of entry. And we have a 24-hour security center where we monitor all of our cameras and provide information to the school related to weather and other emergencies. So we will be busy next year.
Awesome.
Like just to make a comment. First of all, I really appreciate the Leon County Sheriff Resource Officer Program. I was the recipient of that for many years, and it's just been a great partnership. So I'm so glad that we were able to negotiate this contract, and I'll be voting for it. It is disappointing that it's going to cut into our operating budget, $600,000, and I just, it's easy for, I guess, the legislature to say, you must do this, but the funds really were not provided to cover the cost, and even now we're really only, using overtime for most of our elementary schools, which we know that's not the best program. We'd like to have a steady officer that the kids get to know, and it won't be like that. And I think the public needs to understand that we couldn't afford that program at this time. I hope, next year we'll be able to keep negotiating with the city and the county to maybe shore up that difference and perhaps not be in this sort of deficit situation, because it takes money out of our budget that we could be paying teachers. But nevertheless, thank you so much for coming up with a plan. We are going to have all our schools covered, and that's what we need to do, and I know y'all have worked really hard to make this happen. So thank you very much. And with that little caveat, of course, I'll be voting to approve it.
Would you explain, Mr. Hockey, I know in the county you're going to have the 5 schools with the security officers, and then the other schools going to have. Will you explain the difference so the community will know?
Yes, ma'am. We have 17 elementary schools plus Gretchen Everhart that are in the city limits, and for those schools, for next year, in order to be ready and meet the statute, we will be conducting an off-duty detail exercise. For the last 2 years, we have done that already, hiring 8 additional deputies a day that we would rotate through our elementary schools. So we'll be expanding that to 18. We are hopeful that we will have the same officers working in the same schools so that they can build a relationship. We will have a software program that manages that and communicates to the principal as well as the officer related to the assignment of the details. And there will also be an evaluation component so that there can be feedback from the administrators to the performance of the officers. Those officers will be made up right now of only 2 agencies, the Leon County Sheriff's Office and the Tallahassee Police Department.
That's those 18.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what about the 5?
No, ma'am. Those 5 schools that I listed that are in county are covered in the contract that you're voting on this evening.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. If I may, John, thank you so much for all of your efforts, and Chief, thank you, and relay our thanks to the sheriff for your continued support of this program. Dates back to my senior year in high school. I can tell you exactly. I won't tell you how I know that, but I know when it started.
Nothing like experience.
But having said that, just took a lot of hard work on John's part. We'll be coming back probably in July. We have to have something in place by the first day of school with our plan for the 18 elementary schools, and I have not given up on the city yet. And y'all learn something new about me. From time to time, I listen to Johnny Cash. Not sure exactly why. I think when I'm having those little pity moments, feel sorry for myself. I'm a Johnny. But there's a song, and part of his song says, "I'm going to go back to the city commission with a humble heart on bended knee. I'm going to ask you please for help." So that's why I'm going to go back to the city commission after the elections are over, and as Johnny Cash would say, with a humble heart and on bended knee, we're going to ask the city for help, and hopefully they'll join on as partners with us, like the like the sheriff's department has.
You let us know when you go, and we'll bend down on knee with you. We'll
All
be
right.
right
Well,
there with
all,
you.
Right, all six
Right
of us.
there with you.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And Madam Chair and Sue, board members, I hope that the community is picking up that each of these officers they are already trained.
Yes, ma'am.
We have individuals who have already been vetted
Right.
to do this job, and to me that's very important. We're not finding folk outside of law enforcement.
Nope.
So that's very important, I think.
And,
that-
and not all districts are doing it that
And
way.
that's right.
And Leon is one of the districts that is doing
and,
it.
and that's a big thing, John. Good job.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, and there's a lot of districts are all over the place that we went down
That's
to y'all's meeting last
Right,
week. There's a lot
right.
of districts that have not figured, they don't have a plan right now.
That's right.
And because of the money and the expense. And some of them have decided to hire their own employees, and their sheriff signed on to the Guardian program. And
Yep.
we decided, made a stand as a school board and superintendent that we were not going to arm employees, that we were
That's
going
right.
to rely on trained deputy sheriffs and law enforcement officers to protect our children.
That's key.
And we stand by that. Unfortunately, it's cost us some money.
But still, it's
But it's still the
important.
right thing to do.
Still agree with
Yes.
Your safety
Precious
is a high priority.
resources.
you. Move
Thanks,
approval.
John.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Moved by Wood, second by Bowen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Good.
Thank you all, and thank you, Chief, for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you, Chief.
All the way from across the street. We appreciate that. All right. Upcoming meetings.
Well, it's not an upcoming meeting, but we do have a wonderful opportunity tomorrow, don't we, to meet with
We do.
tomorrow.
We're meeting jointly with the Wakulla County
Yes,
School
that's
Superintendent.
noteworthy.
They're treating you all to lunch
Treating
tomorrow.
us to
Yeah,
lunch,
this is
so
like,
we
what
hope
do they
they'll
want?
watch
This is-
They don't want. They want to say that what they want. They want to say thank you. Thank you for Lively.
Oh.
They want to say thank you for keeping Lively, for protecting Lively, and for the wonderful things and offerings it's given the students down in Wakulla County.
Oh,
So
wow.
it not only serves Leon County well, but it also serves Wakulla and surrounding counties.
That's
And Shelley's done a good job of developing relationships with Superintendent Pierce and
Great.
Superintendent Moses over in Franklin County and others to draw students from around this region, the Big Bend area, to Lively and with some of these offerings. So this is a chance for them to say thank you.
It's strong partnership.
I'm sure we have a wonderful agenda and a wonderful fellowship, and we'll be educated about many other things we can do. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, Korea.
But we don't need any motion on that, correct?
Nope,
All right.
we don't.
20.02 financial statements. March and April. Reports from board liaisons, none to date. Superintendent's comments.
Hey, Shane, you want to come up? Give them a minute and a half on your teacher training, your ninja training.
Oh, ninja.
Goodness. Are there pictures to
It
go
was
along
awesome.
with this?
Oh, ninja. Shane's
For
a
video?
ninja?
I know.
Ah,
Last week, we had 84 teacher leaders representing all of the schools in Leon County. And they trained on our Leon Leads teacher evaluation system so that we could have teacher leaders that would be able to talk with their teachers about the evaluation system. And when teachers learn from teachers, they're more open. It's easier to hear from your coworker than it is from your boss sometimes. So we created a train the trainer model for our Leon Leads evaluation system, and we trained all of our teachers to go back to their schools and train the teachers and give them a more in-depth vision of what teacher evaluation and those instructional strategies that are really research-based for our teacher evaluation. We did a lot of great fun things while we were doing there. Our
Ninja
our
Warrior.
theme was
There it
LCS
is.
Ninja Warriors.
Wow.
Right there. They all got great T-shirts, and we ended our week at the ropes course and did a lot of team building. We did the high ropes course and the low ropes course.
I'm familiar with that.
They had a really great time. It was truly one of the ones that our teachers said it was the most meaningful teacher leader academy we've had so far. So we were very happy with the results.
Well, and it wouldn't have happened without your leadership, Shane. So thank you. You can tell this is a passion of yours to help us develop teacher leaders because it's so vitally important.
It is.
It sure is.
School is much bigger than any one person, starting with the principal. You have to have buy-in.
That's
And y'all know how eye observation was rolled out. I mean, it was a hot mess. It just was, and there wasn't a lot of buy-in from the people that were being directly affected, and that was our teachers. And this is a way for us to rebuild those relationships between administrators and teachers, where there's now buy-in, it's collaboration instead of confrontation. So I think it's wonderful. But I know, Dave Clark's not here, but he put a lot of time and effort and energy, and Joe Marie, and, right? I know it was there were some growing pains, many growing pains and bruises, but we're in a much better place today than we were several years ago.
Wonderful. Rigor relationships and
Good
respect.
Thank you.
And then finally, Madam Chair, we put together a little, I think, video/picture presentation. I'm not sure that I really want to show it because I drove by some of our construction projects on Sunday and had to pull my car over, and because I almost got sick because we have made a hot mess at some of these places. But there's some good work going on. This shows the this is Springwood Elementary School, the kitchen and cafeteria expansion at Springwood. And all this this one's on schedule. The one at Chairs, because of all the rain, and the east side of town has had more rain than in some of the other places. This is the front office at Sealy Elementary School. And some of the work that's being done there, the new entranceway, and some handicap parking, and there's the new office renovations for Miss Clemens at Sealy Elementary School.
Yes.
This is a new drop-off area. Giselle Marsh is like, where was this when I was?
I know.
So this along the Thorpe Street corridor is a new drop-off. Now this is with new paving, this new asphalt. Look at that. Isn't that pretty?
Yep.
There's a canopy there for parent drop-off and pickup. It has lights, LED. This is the new window project at Kate Sullivan. When I first took office and walked up to Kate Sullivan Elementary School and looked up, I was like, oh my God, those windows
a little antiquated,
are really
weren't they?
bad. So this is our about 1.2. Those are what the old windows look like. This is about a $1.2 million project to replace all the windows at Sullivan, which is, it's an old school, but an oldie but a goodie. This is the gym project at Fairview. This is what the inside looks like. That's why my stomach hurt, because that is dirt. They tore all the concrete slab up because we were having water seepage and water was coming up through the slab. So they had to dig all that up. This is this is W.T. Moore. So this is W.T. Moore, and the front of W.T. Moore. You can now actually see the school, where before when you drove past you couldn't see it. We're filling in a lot of those holding ponds. We purchased the 5.5 acres beside the school to add additional overflow parking because a lot of the residents at Westminster were complaining about the congestion on Moore, so we have additional parking. This is the field turf project at Gene Cox Stadium, which celebrates its 50th year next year. It's hard to believe that stadium is 50 years old, and it looks now like it did 50 years ago. So it's time, way past time, for some upgrades. Our kids deserve it, and our community deserves it. So it'll serve high school athletes, middle school athletes, Pop Warner teams. I didn't see Rickards.
No, you didn't see it.
I promise you, there's a lot going on at Rickards. Rickards under construction.
Here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there's a video. All right, this is Denver. Denver took his drone out.
All right.
Oh, nice.
James S.
Wonderful.
And we're in the process of moving, doing a lot of site clearing and site work.
Yes.
Building 4 will come down here in the next week or two, right, Danny? So there's the old ball field that we're residing.
Oh, Doug.
I'm sure Doug, he does talk in this at some point.
We're beginning to start doing work here in this northern part of the site, which will become the new baseball fields and softball fields and all the support buildings around those. Part of that work is going to be completed before the fall school year starts. Part of that work is going to be completed in December to be ready for the spring sports season for baseball and softball and track. And in addition to that, we're going to be demolishing over the summer Building 4, and we'll be building an addition to the west, what we're calling the west parking.
I think it builds morale as well, pride too. Our enrollment is up, and I think it's going to continue to go up. We have some of the best facilities in Tallahassee as well as in this area, so we're very pleased and proud to have the facilities for the students because our school was originated in 1960.
No Band-Aids, Miss Lewis Butler. New construction.
That's right.
There we go.
Well,
Down with the old, up with the new.
New infrastructure.
I have a
yes.
question.
All right.
I must have missed it. That Thorpe Street corridor, Mr. Albritton, I just did not see those bricks that are on the front of the building that's supposed to start to match. Did I miss that somewhere? Thank you.
She's
sir.
talking about Astoria Park, right?
Yes,
Right.
Story Park.
we're getting there.
Okay.
Well,
All right,
every time
exciting
we show that,
stuff.
we have to say thank you to the
Yes.
taxpayers because
Yeah, we do.
that
Yes, we
half-cent
do.
sales
We
tax
do.
is making this
Yeah,
happen.
they have
Abs-
sincere
it
tax.
absolutely is.
So.
Yes, it's so
It
important.
is exciting.
I think too, superintendent has done such an amazing job of identifying areas for improvement within our district. We've talked about,
Great.
salaries for all kinds of employees. He's looked at the projects and said, this is what needs to be happening. And I know he feels great frustration every day that he can't find enough to do everything we want to do. So I just want to thank you and everybody at the district for digging in and finding
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yes, yes.
So I hate to, that leads into a new issue. I don't think we have any continuing, but it does lead into a new issue. And I want to look at this as as another opportunity for improvement in our district. I have a growing frustration of opening up and seeing not all, but a portion of our athletic teams in the paper and not in the sports section. And we talk about the safety of our children. We put it first. It's the utmost importance to us, and I feel like there is room for improvement there. We recently identified some mentor coach issues. We have some very grateful that we have people in our community that want to help our athletics, our extracurricular activities as a volunteer. But that brought to light, well, how do we train these people and make them aware of ethic guidelines and communicating with students, and there's been some issues with that, and I think some things came to light this week that caused great frustration. And then as we're discussing that, another one comes up in the paper. So I want to take this opportunity to ask for improvement in that area. I had expressed this before, and superintendent, and I think some board members, we discussed this a little bit yesterday, but I don't want this to be one of those things that we let go by the wayside. We hold our teachers accountable. We hold our principals accountable. We're held accountable, superintendent accountable. Our coaches and our athletic directors need to be held accountable as well, and the majority of them do an amazing job out there. But there is room for improvement. So I'm asking for a complete audit of the mentor coaches for every school. Have they been background checked at the very least? That is the very bottom line of what we need to make sure is happening. And what I'm understanding is there's a complete miscommunication between some of our schools and our district office on that. So I think we look forward to having some more information and some improvements in that area within the next month or so. Thank you.
And we're going to schedule a workshop. And I talked to Dr. Gale before she left town for AVID training today that maybe we have we have 2 meetings in late July and maybe have a workshop instead of one of the agenda reviews. We do a morning workshop, and this would definitely be at the top of the priority list. There's no miscommunication from Pensacola Street. Now, there may be some lack of follow-through, and if there's lack of follow-through at some of our sites, there's going to be some consequences. I can assure you that, because I agree 100%. Nothing is more important than ensuring that the adults that are working with our kids have been vetted and have been fingerprinted and have gone through all the things they need to do to step on that field and have contact with our kids. And if that's not happening, then there's going to be some issues. So I couldn't agree with you more. So I think we need to go see what each school's doing, who's working with our kids, who's not. I can tell you we've come a long way, because before it was just come out and help.
Right.
And there was no vetting these individuals, where they're from or what their backgrounds were. But we've made strides in that area. But if those efforts are not being followed through by our athletic directors and site administrators, then there's going to be some reckoning.
Good.
I can assure you.
We see much improvement in this district, and I know that this is going to be another area of improvement that's going to come. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. You finished with that subject. I want to commend the superintendent on remembering the Band-Aid for Ricketts High School. You're to be commended because of the fact that infrastructure and the state of the arts, I see that, and I thank you for that, making very sure that we don't just put another Band-Aid on Ricketts High School, that we're making very sure that we have good materials so that the infrastructure that, as Sterling Brank told me before he died a couple of years ago, it was built in a hurry with inferior materials. And we're making very sure in 2018 that Ricketts High School is built right, with the right kind of instruction and construction, the right kind of infrastructure, and it will be the state of the arts. Thank you.
I'm sure Mr. Rick Williams will be holding us accountable for his alma mater, right?
Yes, because he was one of the first students at Ricketts High School during integration time.
Awesome. All right. Anything else? Go to the cause. Oh my gosh, are we under an hour? Let's go quick, people. Ready? Ready, adjourn.